Look at this bridge. You see a postcard, a masterpiece of iron and stone stretching across the Avon Gorge. It opened in 1864, a symbol of Victorian genius. But what if I told you that this beautiful place holds a secret history, a history written not in engineering manuals, but in tragedy? Since that opening day, over 500 lives have been lost here. The first suicide was recorded in 1866, a shipbuilder, and a terrible pattern was set that has never truly ended. This is not just a story about a bridge. It is a story about a whisper that became a shout, a pull that some cannot resist. We are going to go deep into the shadows of this icon. We will uncover the chilling facts of the 19th century, where the deaths climbed one by one. The 19th by 1883. We will witness a miracle of survival in 1885 and an unthinkable act of violence in 1896 that changed everything. We will follow this pain right into our modern world, to the students and professionals who have stood on the same edge. We will see how the fight back began with barriers and thermal cameras, and we will ask the questions that linger in the mist. Why here? Is it just a tragic spot, or is something else happening? Do places remember sorrow? Can a gorge be haunted by echoes that are not sound, but feeling? This journey will change how you see this bridge forever. It will challenge everything you assume about beauty and despair. We are not here to sensationalize. We are here to understand, to see the full picture, from the darkest moments to the brave flickers of hope that are rewriting this story right now. If you want the truth, the real, uncut history of one of the world's most famous bridges, you need to watch this until the end. The final revelation connects it all in a way you will never forget. So, settle in. What you are about to hear is the unseen toll of the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because this is the kind of deep, researched storytelling we are committed to bringing you. The story starts now. Look at this bridge. You see a masterpiece, don't you? You see the sweeping curves of iron against the sky. You see the towers standing proud like sentinels. It is a symbol of victory, of human genius over nature. It opened in 1864 to awe and celebration. But now, I want you to see something else. I want you to see a beautiful trap. Because just 2 years after the cheering stopped, the first terrible fall happened. It was May of 1866. The person was a shipbuilder. Think about that job. A person used to crafting strong things, solid things, things that float. He walked onto this new symbol of strength, and he jumped. Why here? Why did this beautiful new bridge become the stage for such a private, final pain? It makes you wonder. Was it the height? A drop of over 245 feet to the water below? Was it the ease of access, right there in the growing city? Or was it something more haunting? When a person's inner world collapses, when their pain becomes a screaming, silent ocean inside them, they sometimes seek a place that matches that feeling. A small, quiet room won't do. They need a stage as large as their despair. And the bridge offers that. It is glorious. It is dramatic. It makes the unthinkable feel strangely fitting. This is the paradox we must sit with from the very start. The very thing that makes the Clifton Suspension Bridge magnificent is what makes it so dangerous. Its beauty is a lure. Its openness is an invitation. Its history as an achievement sets a terrible standard. For someone drowning in shame or grief or a feeling of failure, to end things in a place of such success, it creates a dark, twisted poetry. The bridge doesn't judge, it just stands there, breathtaking and available. And that availability is the first link in a chain that would stretch for over a century. That shipbuilder in 1866 was not just a man. He was a pattern setter. He was a proof of concept, though that is a cold, horrible way to put it. He showed that it could be done here, and once something is shown to be possible, it enters the mind of a community. It becomes a dark option on a list of options. The local papers of the time recorded it. The word spread. And then, just 3 years later in September 1869, another young man in his 20s followed the same path. The pattern was repeating. The bridge's second identity was being written, not in guidebooks, but in obituaries. By January of 1883, official records noted this cold, hard fact. It was the 19th suicide from the bridge. 19th. Say that number out loud. Each one is a world ended, a family shattered, a story cut short. The bridge was not yet 20 years old, and it was already a known place for this. That's the true, creeping horror of this chapter. It's not just the first jump, it's the relentless, accumulating weight of the jumps that came after. The bridge earned a nickname it never wanted. A reputation began to solidify in the air around it, as real as the iron and the stone. And a reputation is a powerful thing. It tells a desperate person, you are not alone in your pain. Others have stood where you stand. But it says it in the most terrible way imaginable. So I ask you again, looking at this picture of beauty and engineering, what do you see now? Do you see just a bridge, or do you see the beginning of a long, sad story? Do you see how easily glory can share a space with grief? The stage was set in those first 2 decades. The beautiful trap was sprung, and the echoes of that first lonely fall in 1866. They were just the beginning of a chorus that would never quite fall silent. The bridge had shown it could hold the weight of carriages and crowds, but could it bear the weight of this growing sorrow? That was a different kind of engineering question, one that no designer, no matter how brilliant, could ever have solved. So the pattern was set. That first lonely jump in 1866. It wasn't an end. It was a beginning. A terrible, repeating beginning. Think of it like a bell that rings once, and then its sound keeps echoing, bouncing off the walls of the gorge, calling out to others in the same dark place. That's what the rest of the 1800s became for this bridge. Not a story of one tragedy, but of a tragedy that learned how to repeat itself. We left off with that cold number, the 19th suicide by January of 1883. But we must understand what that number hides. It hides faces. It hides stories. It hides ordinary people on an ordinary day who walked to an extraordinary edge. Let's add just a few more to the count to feel their weight. In December of 1885, a man jumped. The papers noted they found his hat and his walking stick. Just everyday objects left behind. Can you picture them? A hat on the walkway, a stick leaning against the rail. The most normal things in the world, marking the spot where a life left it. Then, in August of 1887, it was a young decorator, someone who added beauty to rooms. He chose this vast, open room to leave, and the record called it the 24th suicide since the bridge opened. Do you feel it? The awful mechanical rhythm of it, one after another after another. The bridge was young, but its shadow was growing long and deep, and with each new report, the bridge's dark purpose became more solid, more known. It moved from a shocking event to a sad, expected fact of life in Bristol. The local newspapers, they started reporting it in a certain way, not with front-page horror every time, but with a quiet, grim acceptance. A few lines in the columns. Another suicide from the suspension bridge. That's the true horror here, the normalization. When something happens once, it's a tragedy. When it happens 24 times, it becomes a tradition, a cursed tradition. And that is the powerful, evil magic of a reputation. Once a place gets a name for this, it draws people to it. A person in pain who feels utterly alone might read that short article, and in their shattered mind, a connection forms. I am not the only one. Others have felt this here. They understood. The bridge becomes a strange, terrible companion. It doesn't judge because it has seen it all before. It just waits. It offers the same choice it offered the shipbuilder 20 years prior. The city grew and changed around it, but the bridge's second job, that stayed the same. This creates a chilling question for us, right here in the present. Were these people choosing the bridge? Or was the bridge, now stained by its past, now whispering its history on the wind, choosing them? When you stand there, you are not just standing on iron and wood. You are standing in a place heavy with memory. You are breathing air thick with the ghosts of final decisions. Did those later jumpers in the 1880s feel the presence of the ones who came before? Not as ghosts, maybe, but as a pattern, a path that had been walked. The numbers kept climbing. The relentless count continued. By the end of the 1800s, the total was climbing toward 50. 50 worlds ended. 50 families broken. The beautiful trap we talked about, it was working with a dreadful efficiency. It wasn't just the physical bridge anymore. It was the idea of the bridge. The idea that here was a place where you could make your private pain as big and as public as the gorge itself. The engineering was a success. The city was proud. But under the feet of the celebrating crowds, a river of sorrow was flowing, and its current was getting stronger. Every new life lost added to the power of the pull. The count wasn't just a number, it was a force, and that force was only getting started. It would flow right into the new century, untouched by time, unchanged by progress. The bridge had a destiny now, and it was a dark one. We had built a masterpiece, and we had accidentally given despair a perfect stage. Now, let's talk about the day the bridge's rules were broken. The day fate changed its mind. Because in all this gathering darkness, in the middle of that relentless count, there is a flicker, a single, astounding story that doesn't end with a final splash. It ends with a gasp for air. It is May 8th, 1885. A young woman walks onto the bridge. She climbs onto the rail, and she jumps. But this time, the story does not end there. She survives. Can you even imagine that moment? The onlookers frozen in shock. The cries not of horror, but of disbelief. The frantic rush down the steep sides of the gorge to the river's edge. They pulled her from the water, alive. The newspapers, usually so brief and grim, talked about it with a kind of wonder. Here was the exception, the miracle, the one who beat the odds. For a little while, she was famous, the woman who fell from Clifton Bridge and lived. But what does her story really mean for us? Listening now, it is not a happy story. It is a haunting one. It is the ghost of the other path. Think about her fall, the same 245 feet as the others, the same rush of wind, the same terrible view of the water rushing up. But somewhere in those few seconds, what happened? Did she feel a sudden electric regret, a primal will to live that shocked her system? Or was it just blind, stupid luck? The way she hit the water, a current that carried her gently, we will never know. But her survival screams a question into the silence. It asks, what about all the others? What about the shipbuilder or the young decorator? What if, in their final second, they too felt that flash of no, that instinct to take it all back? But for them, it was too late. Her story makes their stories even more tragic, because it proves that the bridge did not have to be a final sentence. It could have been a terrible, near mistake. This creates a different kind of chill. It's not the chill of death, but the chill of chance. The thin, razor's edge between one outcome and another. Her life was not saved by barriers or guards. It was saved by physics, by fate, by a body that somehow survived the impossible. She is living proof that the bridge's pull was not a 100% certainty. There was a way out, even after the jump began. But how does that feel? To be the only one, to carry that knowledge for the rest of your life. Who did she become? Every time she looked at the bridge, did she see a monster she defeated? Or a place that almost took everything? Her story forces us to shift our view. We have to see the bridge not just as a place of endings, but as a place of almost endings, a place of interrupted choices. And if that is true for her on that day in 1885, then it might have been true for others too. Others we never heard about, because they did not survive to tell the tale. Her ghost, the ghost of survival, walks alongside all the other ghosts. She is the what if. She is the hope that arrived 1 second too late for so many. So, we must add her to our count in a special column. Not a number of deaths, but a number of profound questions. Her existence breaks the pattern, and in doing so, it makes the pattern itself seem more cruel, more random. Why her? Why that day? The bridge, in its silent, iron way, had shown it could let go. It had shown a sliver of mercy. But it was a mercy it would almost never show again. Her survival was a flicker of light in the growing shadow. A light that only made the surrounding darkness seem deeper and more complete. It proved the trap could spring, and you could still, against all odds, walk away. But for the next person to stand on that rail, that knowledge was gone. They only knew the bridge's older, more famous promise. The promise of an end. And that is perhaps the saddest truth of all. We think we understand the rules of this place now, don't we? We see the pattern of a private pain, a personal choice, a lonely fall, the bridge as a mirror for a single person's despair. But history is here to tell us we understand nothing, because in September of 1896, the bridge witnessed a different kind of horror. An act so unthinkable, it tears the script we've been following into pieces. This is not a story of suicide. This is a story of a man, his 2 young children, and a decision that defies all reason. The facts are bare, and they are brutal. A father brought his 2 small children to the Clifton Suspension Bridge. He then threw them from the walkway into the gorge below. Just sit with that for a moment. The same action we've traced, the climb, the fall, but now done to the innocent. The violence of it is a different color. It's not the gray of personal sorrow. It's a shocking, screaming red. It stains the history of the bridge in a new way. It says, this place is not just for your own end. It can be a stage for something monstrous. But then, the story twists again. In a turn that feels almost like a cruel joke from fate itself, both children survived the fall. They were pulled from the river alive. Can you process that? The specific, aimed violence failed. The random, chaotic fall. They lived. What does that do to your mind? The very act designed to end life was defeated by the same chance that ended so many others. It turns everything we thought we knew upside down. The gorge took their bodies, but it gave them back. What kind of echo does an event like that leave in a place? It's not one note of sadness, it's a horrible chord: betrayal, terror, survival, and a trauma that would last those children a lifetime. This event forces us to ask a much darker question about the bridge's pull. We called it a beautiful trap for the troubled. But what is it for someone who is not just troubled, but broken in a way that seeks to harm others? Did the bridge's reputation for finality call to him? Did he see it as a grand, terrible tool? The bridge, in its silent neutrality, offered no judgment. It just provided the height, the drop, the stage. It held no moral code. It only obeyed physics, and that is perhaps the most frightening realization of all. The bridge doesn't care about your reason, your pain, your evil, your twisted logic. It doesn't matter. It will facilitate the action all the same. So now, the atmosphere around the bridge changes again. It is no longer just a site of personal tragedy. It is now also a site of a crime, a violent attack, an attempted murder. The shadows in the gorge now hold the memories of childish terror, not just adult despair. If places absorb emotion, what did they absorb that day? The pure fear of those children, the dark chaos in the man's heart, the desperate relief of the rescuers. It's a toxic mix. This story stands apart from the relentless count. It is a solitary, terrible peak on the landscape. It warns us that the power of this place can be twisted into shapes we never imagined. The bridge's gift of a final choice can be stolen and forced upon someone else. It shows us the bridge's ultimate, awful neutrality. It is a machine for falling. Nothing more, nothing less. What you bring to it, that's on you. That is the chilling lesson of 1896. The bridge will hold your hand as you jump yourself. And as we learned with horror, it will not stop you from pushing someone else. Its silence is complete. Its promise is whatever you decide it to be. And that may be the most terrifying thing we've uncovered yet. Now you might be thinking, this is all old history, Victorian stories, tales from a different, darker time. We have phones now. We have the internet, therapy, modern medicine. Surely the bridge's old pull has faded. Let me stop you right there. It has not faded. Not one bit. The pull is just as strong today as it was in 1866. The stage is the same. The human heart is the same. The relentless count did not stop when the calendar turned to 1900. It flowed right into the new century, and the next, like the river below. The total number of lives lost here climbed and climbed, passing 400, then 500. But we must focus on two recent names, not to name them, but to remember they were modern people. In April of 2018, a university student fell from the bridge. Think about that life. Lectures, friends, a future being built. All the possibilities of the 21st century. Yet they found themselves on that same iron walkway, feeling that same ancient pull. Then, in January of 2024, a lighting technician died here. Someone whose job was to illuminate beauty, to chase away darkness with light. Yet the darkness found them, right here on this beautiful structure. These are our contemporaries. They had smartphones in their pockets. They streamed movies. They ordered food with an app. They lived in our world. But when the pain became too much, they were drawn to a place from the 1800s. This is a crucial, heartbreaking point. The bridge's call is not about an old-fashioned kind of sadness. It is about a human pain that is timeless. Despair does not care what century it is. It does not care about technology. It only seeks an end that matches its scale. And the bridge, it is always there. It is a constant in a changing city. It waits, patient as stone. These modern tragedies shattered the idea that this was a problem of the past. They sparked fresh outrage, fresh flowers tied to the railings, fresh questions in the City Council. A new safety review was announced in 2024 because of it. The community looked at their beautiful landmark and saw it was still hurting people. It forced everyone to admit a terrible truth. The beautiful trap was still active. The mirror was still reflecting. The pattern, set over 150 years ago, was still repeating itself. One person, then another, then another. So what does this mean for you, listening right now? It means this story is not locked in history books. It is alive. It is happening now. The bridge you might visit on a sunny day to take a photo holds that same potential it held for the shipbuilder, for the young woman who lived, for the student, for the technician. Its history is not a separate thing. Its history is part of its structure, as real as the bolts and the cables. When you walk across it, you are walking through a field of memories. Most are happy, sure, but hundreds are not. And for some, that field of memory becomes a map that leads to the edge. The bridge's lesson is a hard one. It teaches us that progress in streets and buildings does not mean progress in the human soul. We can fly to the moon, but we cannot always quiet the storm in a single mind. And the bridge, in all its antique glory, understands that storm better than any modern building ever could. It was built for another age, but it serves a sadness that has no age. That is its modern echo. Not an echo fading away, but an echo that keeps returning, loud and clear, demanding that we finally, truly listen. So, what do you do when you finally admit a place has a problem? A deep, old, repeating problem? You fight back. You draw a line in the iron. For the Clifton Suspension Bridge, that line was drawn in 1998. That was the year they installed the suicide prevention barriers. And friends, this is a chapter about hope. Not a soft hope, but a tough, practical, metal hope. These barriers are not fancy. They are a mesh, a vertical extension of the existing railings, but their effect was immediate and powerful. The number of deaths, it was cut in half. Let that sink in. A simple change in the physical structure saved countless lives. It literally cut the pattern in two. This is the moment the community said, no more. No more to the relentless count. No more to the easy access to the edge. The beautiful trap had a new lock on it, but the barriers were just the start. The bridge is now watched by eyes that never sleep. There is a CCTV control room. There are thermal imaging cameras. Can you believe that? Cameras that don't just see light, they see heat. On a cold, dark night, they can spot the single warm shape of a person standing alone for too long. And then there are the attendants, the guardians. These are real people who walk the bridge, trained to see the signs, trained to start a gentle conversation. Their job is not to arrest or to shout. Their job is to connect, to offer a different path off the bridge. And everywhere there are signs, simple signs with a single vital number, 116123, the Samaritans. A free call, day or night, to a person who will just listen. That number is now part of the bridge's sound. It's a whisper of an alternative, right next to the old loud call of the gorge. This is the modern world doing its best to fix a wound from the past. It's technology and human kindness. teaming up against a century of sorrow. It works. We know it works. But, and there is always a but in this story, it leads us to a harder, more intimate question. Do these measures stop the urge, or do they just stop the act? Does a person in that terrible pain still feel the pull, still walk to the bridge, only to find the physical path blocked by metal mesh? Do they stand there, looking through that barrier, feeling both frustrated and maybe secretly relieved? Think about that. The barrier becomes a kind of referee. It steps in when a person's own willpower is gone. It creates a pause, a moment between the thought and the impossible action. And in that moment, a phone can be picked up, a guardian can say hello, the spell can be broken. The bridge's old silent promise is now interrupted by a newer, louder promise, the promise of help. So the bridge today is a battleground. It's a quiet war between its history and our future, between its pull and our prevention. The Guardians are fighting the ghost of the shipbuilder from 1866. The thermal camera is fighting the memory of the young decorator from 1887. Every life saved is a victory in that war. It's a rewrite of the old sad story. But the war is never truly over, because the bridge itself hasn't changed. Its height, its beauty, its symbolic power, that's all still there. The stage is the same. We've just made it much, much harder for the tragedy to play out. And that is a kind of victory we have to hold on to. It's not perfect, but it is powerful. It is the sound of us saying, "We see you. We remember. And we will not let this happen so easily again." We've talked about the facts, the dates, the numbers. We've talked about the fight to save lives. But now, we need to talk about the things you cannot measure. The things that don't appear in any official report. The whispers, the feelings, the stories that live in the corner of your eye. Because when a place holds this much emotion, for this long, people start to notice something else. They say the gorge is not empty. They say it is full of sounds that are not the wind. Walkers at night, especially those walking alone, report a sudden and heavy feeling of sadness. It comes from nowhere. It washes over them like a cold wave right in the middle of the bridge. Then, just as suddenly, it's gone. Others talk about the figure. Most often, it's a woman in grey, seen for a second near the railings, and then she's not there. Security tapes have been checked. No one was there, but the person who saw her, they know what they saw. They felt it. Are these ghosts? The classic idea of a spirit trapped here? Maybe, but let's think of another idea, one that some researchers talk about. They call it a psychic imprint. Think of a place like a tape recorder. If a moment is intense enough, filled with terror or sorrow or final decision, maybe it can leave a mark, a recording in the stone, in the iron, in the very air. Now, think about our bridge. Think about over 500 of those moments. 500 recordings of the most powerful, terrible emotion a human can feel. All in one spot. What would that feel like? Would it just play back sometimes? This isn't about proving ghosts are real. This is about asking what happens to all that energy. The energy of a final thought. The energy of a last look at the world. The energy of that choice. Does it just vanish? Or does some part of it stay, clinging to the place where it happened? The stories people tell, they all share a theme, a feeling of being watched, a deep, unnatural chill, a figure that is there and then is not. This isn't just one person's story. It's a pattern of stories, as real as the pattern of jumps we've already traced. So, let's connect this to our history. The most common figure is a woman in grey. Our records show one of the earliest jumps was that young woman in 1885, the one who survived. But what about the ones who didn't? What about the woman in December of 1889? The records say a man called out before he jumped that month. But what about a woman who left in silence? If an imprint was made, whose is it? Is it a single person, or is it something worse? A combined echo of all of them. A shape made from shared sorrow. This changes how you walk across the bridge. You're not just walking over a river. You are walking through a cloud of memory, a cloud of final moments. The guardians fight the physical act. But who fights this atmosphere, this feeling? The thermal camera sees a heat signature, but what sees the cold spot? The barrier stops a jump. But what stops a thought from the past, from brushing against your mind? The gorge has an echo. We know the sound of the wind in it, the sound of the traffic above it. But what if it has another echo, an echo of a gasp, or a sigh, or a cry that never quite hit the water? The sounds in the gorge may not be sounds you hear with your ears. They may be sounds you feel in your bones. They are the proof that what happened here didn't just happen to people. It happened to the place itself, and the place remembers. Now, we put all the pieces together. The history, the numbers, the ghosts, the fight, and we arrive at the heart of the mystery. The aha moment that changes everything. What if we have been looking at this all wrong? What if the Clifton Suspension Bridge is not a monster? What if it is simply a mirror? The most honest and therefore the most terrifying mirror ever built. Think about what a mirror does. It doesn't create an image. It reflects what is already there. It shows you yourself with perfect clarity. Now look at the bridge. Its beauty reflects our love of triumph, of creating the impossible. Its height reflects the scale of our ambition. But for a person in the deepest pain, what does it reflect? It reflects the depth of their despair. It makes the internal, confusing, screaming agony. External. It gives it a shape, a 245-foot-tall shape. It shows them a way to match their inner feeling with an outer action. That is its terrible power. It doesn't whisper ideas. It clarifies the idea they already have. It makes the unthinkable visible. This explains everything. It explains the shipbuilder in 1866. It explains the young woman who survived in 1885. It explains the student in 2018. Different centuries, different lives, same mirror. Their pain was their own. The bridge just showed it back to them, bigger than life. It presented a choice with breathtaking, horrible clarity. A choice that felt as large and final as the feeling inside them. The stories, the ghosts, the statistics, they are not about the bridge being evil. They are about it being neutral, powerfully, perfectly neutral. It is a stage, and the tragedy that plays out comes from the actor, not the stage. But this leads us to the most chilling question of all. If the bridge is a mirror, what does it reflect about us? Not as individuals, but as a community. As humans, it reflects that for over 150 years, we have carried a pain among us that sometimes seeks this specific end. It reflects that genius and beauty can live right beside sorrow and loss. It reflects that our solutions, the barriers, the cameras, are us trying to block our own reflection. We are not just fighting the bridge. We are fighting a part of ourselves we don't want to see. This changes the supernatural stories too. The woman in grey, the feeling of sadness. Maybe these aren't ghosts trying to pull people over. Maybe they are the reflection, stuck in the glass. An echo of a moment when someone looked into this mirror and saw only one way out. The place remembers the look in their eyes, and sometimes it shows it back. So when you stand on the bridge now, what are you standing on? You are standing on a monument to human skill. You are also standing on a monument to human suffering. They are the same thing. The bridge does not judge between them. It holds them both. It is a piece of engineering that by accident became a tool for the soul. A tool that shows a person the absolute truth of their own feeling. And sometimes that truth is more than a heart can bear. The bridge's secret is out. It was never calling anyone. It was only ever answering. It was answering a call of pain that started in a human heart. And it answered with a vision so clear, so grand, so final, that for some, it became the only answer that made sense. That is the true tragedy, not of a cursed place, but of a place that revealed a curse we already carried. And understanding that is the first step to breaking it. This is where our story turns. It does not end at the edge. It turns away from it. Because for every story that ends in the gorge, there is another story we rarely hear. A quieter story. A story that happens in a low voice, on a cold night, under the glow of a streetlight on the bridge. This is the story of the flicker on the rail. The moment the reflection in the mirror changes. Imagine this scene, because it is real. It's a winter night. The bridge is almost empty. A person stands at the barrier, looking down into the dark. Their world has collapsed into a single, terrible point. But tonight, the story shifts. An attendant, one of the guardians, has seen them on the thermal camera. The attendant doesn't run. They don't shout. They walk up slowly. They stand nearby, not too close. And they just talk. About the cold. About the night. About nothing important at all. It's not a grand speech. It's a human connection. A thread thrown across the void. And sometimes, that thread is grabbed. The person turns. They make eye contact. They see another person, not a reflection. The attendant offers a warm room, a hot drink, and the most powerful offer of all. Let's call someone. Let me help you call. They dial the number on the sign. 116-123. The Samaritans. A voice answers in the quiet, and that voice becomes a new rope, pulling them back from the edge. Then, the most beautiful, ordinary thing happens. They turn, they take a step, then another. They walk away from the rail, away from the mirror, back towards the city lights. The spell is broken. The story is rewritten, right there, in that moment. This happens, more than we will ever know. Every life saved is a victory over the old pattern. It is a victory over 1866, over 1885, over 2018. It is the sound of the present saying no to the past. The bridge's legacy is not fixed. It is being written every single day by these choices, by the choice to reach out and the choice to reach back. So, what is the final truth of the Clifton Suspension Bridge? It is not a place of death. It is a place of profound choice, the most profound choice a human can make. For over 150 years, people have gone there to make that choice in one direction. But now, because of the barriers, the cameras, the guardians, they are also making the other choice, the choice to stay. The flicker on the rail is the flicker of a soul, choosing itself, against all odds. It is hope, in its toughest, most real form. You have walked this history with me. You've felt its weight. Now you carry a piece of it. The bridge's story is not locked away. It lives in our awareness, in our willingness to see the pain in others, in our courage to be the connection. That Samaritans number 116123 is not just a sign on a bridge. It is a lifeline you can remember for anyone, anywhere. You can be the gentle voice that interrupts the terrible reflection. The bridge stands as it always has, beautiful, strong, neutral. But we are not neutral. We can choose to be guardians too. In our way, by listening, by caring, by not looking away. The final chapter of this bridge's story is ours to write. Let's make it a story of turning around. A story of flickers that become flames. A story where the most powerful echo in the gorge is the echo of a saved life, walking away. We have reached the end of our journey, but we have not reached the end of the story. The story of the Clifton Suspension Bridge is, and always will be, unfinished. Because it is not a story about a thing made of iron. It is a story about the human heart, and that story has no end. Look at the bridge now, with all you know. See its two truths, braided together like the cables that hold it up. Truth 1, it is a masterpiece of hope, built to connect two sides of a gorge. Truth 2, it became a mirror of despair, reflecting a pain so deep it sought an ending as vast as the sky. Both of these truths are real. They live in the same structure. They always have. To deny one is to misunderstand the bridge completely. To deny one is to misunderstand us completely. We have walked from 1866 to today. We saw the first tragic fall of the shipbuilder. We felt the relentless count climb through the 1800s. We held our breath for the young woman who survived in 1885. We were horrified by the unthinkable act of 1896. We grieved for the modern lives lost, the student, the technician. We applauded the fight, the 1998 barriers that cut the deaths in half, the thermal cameras, the guardians. We wondered about the sounds in the gorge, the woman in grey, and we saw the flicker of hope in a quiet conversation that turns someone around. So what do we do with all of this? We carry it, not as a burden, but as a responsibility. The bridge is a teacher. Its hardest lesson is this: beauty and suffering can exist in the same breath, in the same rivet, in the same view. And our job is to face both. To celebrate the beauty, yes. To stand in awe of the engineering, but also to remember the sorrow, to honor it by working to end it. The unfinished part is up to us. The bridge's physical story is written. Its human story is still being written every single day. Every time someone sees the signs and calls 116123, a new sentence is written. Every time an attendant offers a kind word, a new paragraph is started. Every time you, listening to this, choose to check on a friend who is struggling, you are adding to this story. You are becoming a guardian in your own world. The Clifton Suspension Bridge will always be there. It will always be beautiful. It will always have its height, its history, its echo. But the meaning of that echo is changing. It is no longer just the echo of a fall. It is becoming the echo of a conversation that happened instead. The echo of a choice to stay. The legacy is shifting, slowly, from a place known for an end to a place known for a turning point. When you visit, you will feel it all. The triumph, the sadness, the mystery, the hope. You will stand on the unfinished bridge, and you will understand that its final design is not in the hands of the long-ago engineers. It is in the hands of the community that surrounds it now. It is in your hands. The most important support cable was never made of iron. It is made of compassion. It is woven from our willingness to see pain and to answer it with connection. This is the last lesson from the gorge. We built a bridge to cross a physical space. But the real bridge we must build is between each other. That bridge is the one that can truly span the deepest darkness. That bridge is the one we must never stop building. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. Now go be part of the new story. So, here we are, at the end of our journey and at the heart of the truth. The Clifton Suspension Bridge is not one thing. It is two things, braided together forever. It is a symbol of brilliant hope, built to connect, and it is a mirror for deep despair, showing a pain so vast it needed a vast ending. Both of these truths live in the same iron, the same stone. You cannot have one without knowing the other now. Look at the history we walked through. From the first sad fall in 1866, through all those years of loss. We saw the amazing survival in 1885, a flicker of chance. We felt the horror of 1896, a different kind of violence. We learned the hard numbers, over 500 lives. We followed that pain right into today, with lives lost just a few months ago. This story did not stay in the past. It is alive. But we also saw the fight back, the brave change in 1998, those simple barriers that cut the deaths in half, the watchful cameras, the warm-hearted guardians on patrol, the signs with the number 116123. We saw that we are not powerless. We can build fences against the dark. We can be the hand that pulls someone back from the edge. And we ask the bigger questions about the feelings in the gorge, the stories of a woman in grey. Does a place remember? Maybe it does. Maybe when something so strong happens over and over, a mark is left, an echo. Not a ghost to scare us, but a memory to make us care, to make us pay attention. Here is the final, simple truth. The bridge itself is finished, but its human story is not. We are writing it now. Every time someone chooses to call for help, every time a kind word is spoken, every time you check on a friend who is quiet and sad, you are writing a new chapter. You are adding a story of hope to a place that knew too much sorrow. The bridge stands as it always has, beautiful and strong. But its meaning is changing. Because of us. Because we choose to see the pain and to answer it with connection. That is the most powerful support cable of all. It is made of our compassion. Take this story with you. When you see any beautiful, difficult thing, remember this bridge. Remember that light and shadow can live side by side. And remember, you can always be the one who adds more light. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe. It helps us bring more true, deep stories to you. Be kind out there. Be a guardian. The new story is yours to write.